If there's someone you love who is ruining their own life, they're going down a really dark path and not taking your advice, or sometimes you see people online and you feel this compulsion to tell them what to do. If you're someone who is a bit of a white knight and you feel really frustrated when other people aren't doing the work, and you really want to help them, but you can't, and sometimes the guilt eats away at you, well, this episode is specifically for you. How do you balance being a good person trying to help others without controlling them or telling them what to do? And at the end of the day, can we actually save people or not? Let me help you out, bestie. I have gone down this path. So many of my clients have dealt with this issue. We do not want you rescuing people anymore right after this intro. Welcome to the Inner Child Podcast. Now with 2 million downloads, I help high achievers recover from painful relationships and childhood trauma. Let's heal together on Season 2 of the Inner Child Podcast. Welcome back to the Inner Child Podcast. My name is Gloria Zhang. I'm a therapist, an author, a relationship coach. Whether you are new or you have been an OG listener for quite some time, I'm so glad you're here because today's episode is for the rescuers and the codependents out there, or people who maybe have a little bit of a control issue, but don't worry, it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's really just part of the healing process. And as you notice, the title in today's episode, which is most likely going to be You Can't Save Other People, it is so hard, especially if you are someone who has grown up with an alcoholic or someone with addictions, or you've seen someone had their health or life completely deteriorate in front of your eyes. No matter what you did, they just wouldn't listen to you or take your advice. It is a painful, painful, painful place to be, to have people that you love so much just slip between your fingers. And if you have experienced something like this, or maybe something even more devastating, I am so, so sorry. My heart is with you. And if you're in a situation where maybe you feel like this is happening again, I'm hoping to shed some light on this, to bring you some peace and some clarity around where the line stands between truly out of the goodness of your heart trying to help someone, but also respecting somebody's wishes and their free will. And it's a really hard and painful place to be. We're going to talk about a few things as well as a call to action at the end of other episodes I recommend re-listening to or steps to take. Now, oh boy, where do I even want to begin? The reason why I know very specifically what this topic is and how it feels is because a lot of the folks that I work with are rescuers. They have grown up in their childhood playing the role of the mom or the dad or the caregiver, and so much of their identity has revolved around other people needing them to do things, right? Or rescuing people, saving other people, fixing things for other people. That's the role that was put on them. Some people call it older sibling syndrome. And it's not your fault if that happened to you. But if you've lived so much of your life in this position, that's where you derive so much of your identity and your self-esteem from. You feel good from being needed, even though you also kind of resent being put in that position because it's extremely stressful. It's also a hard time letting go of it because you don't know what your value is as a person if you're not constantly putting out fires and helping and saving other people. And that's why so many of our clients in the Soulmate program, so many of them are nurses and teachers and therapists themselves. So we also attract a lot of clients who end up in the helping profession because not only is that part of their personality, they've made it their entire career as well, right? And so we work with so many nurses. It's kind of a running joke at this point. But anyways, I want to free you from this mental anguish of having so much internal turmoil of wanting to save people, of dealing with the guilt, but also having room for yourself left over. And by the way, if guilt is a thing for you, I would listen to episode number 89 from season 1, which is not on YouTube. Feeling guilty and sorry for people all the time. So you can find that on Spotify or Apple. Here's what I need you to know. And this is really important. And you can re-listen to this anytime that you forget. So much of what drives this rescuing behavior is that we're not actually helping the other person. I'm sure we know that, right? We tell ourselves that we're doing this for them when it's actually to relieve ourselves of our own guilt, of our own discomfort. Okay? And so what is disguised as an act of compassion for others is actually trying to get rid of our own feelings of pain and discomfort. So stay with me for a second. And as you hear this, you might even feel some resistance or even some anger from your own ego who's pushing back at my words and saying, no, Gloria, right? It's because I'm a loving person. I'm a compassionate person. I'm a good person. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but just bear with me for a second, because this is where shadow work and embracing all of our parts come in handy. Nobody is a completely good or bad person, and that's the way it's supposed to be. We are complex human beings. But sometimes when our self-esteem is so fragile, the ego's need to appear like a perfect, angelic, good person is so strong that we will enable other people's bad behavior just so that we don't feel like we're a bad person. You see what I mean? It's not that you're a bad person. It's that your ego sometimes has a grip and an ulterior motive behind why we go out of our ways so much to save and rescue somebody when it's not our place to do it. It's not our place. Every single spiritual law points to free will being one of the most sacred laws of the universe. Whether you're a Christian or a Taoist or a Buddhist, we know this. Free will is the most basic spiritual universal principle. And when you take somebody else's opportunity away from them, and you do something for them, or you try to fix it for them, or you try to force them into healing, you are robbing them of the opportunity to resolve their own karmic debt. You are taking away and stealing their opportunity to resolve their karmic cycle. That's their karma. Okay, and depending on your belief system, this could be from generations and lifetimes. It is not up to you to go and fix that for them. That is their journey. They're just as much of a soul as you are. They're on just as much of a journey as you are. Okay? It's not your place to intervene and step into their journey and do it for them. And it's so hard to hear this. Trust me, I know. And I'll just pull from my own example. I actually grew up with a blood disorder called thalassemia. It's more common in Asian people, but it's a genetic blood disorder I have where the shape of my cells is different and smaller. And so for my whole life, I've dealt with all sorts of, related side effects of this condition. So I've been very health conscious at a young age. And just to feel normal, if you want to put it that way, I have to put a lot of effort into my health, taking these supplements and exercising and all this stuff just to feel regular, basically, right? And so it has always pained me so much to see my family, people I love around me, essentially destroy their health when I'm there next to them, yep, like a little bird in their brain saying, don't do this, you shouldn't do that. And then, of course, no one ever listened to me, right? And this actually happened in my relationship with Andrew. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know that he got really sick a few years ago. And then I was warning him about broad spectrum antibiotics. Don't just take antibiotics whenever you want to. You should talk to a doctor and, really be careful with it because it can wipe your gut and give you a lot of health problems. And that's a whole other conversation. And then he didn't listen to me at the time, and he ended up with a life-threatening infection called C. diff. Basically, the last several years has been dealing with the side effects of that, right? So I was like, I told you so. And then, eventually now he's become very conscious about those things. But anyways, I digress. 4 years now or something, I've had to watch him suffer and struggle through this. And he's fine now, don't worry. But it was hard for me personally, right? Because of my past history with people not listening to my recommendations. And it was a real hard lesson on letting people make mistakes and still being able to love myself and them in the process. And I realized that although this particular story did have a happy ending, for other people, it does not. You may have people who've struggled with addiction, even though you have begged them for years to go to rehab or to get help, who have sadly passed away from it. I mean, there's so many examples of that. And the pain of not being able to save people. We can't rescue other people. And that's just how it is, okay? But it doesn't mean that we can't make a difference in the world. And I'm going to share with you the difference between empowering others and controlling them. The best way to help people, and you can't choose who the audience is, all right? It's just like when I put this podcast out there, I don't know who's going to find this, but I know that if I go to my neighbor or to any specific person and I try to force them to listen to my advice, they may not do that. But the best way to truly help other people is to lead by example. To put on your own oxygen mask before helping someone else first. Because if you heal yourself and you live according to your own code of conduct, the right people who were meant to hear the message at the right time will be able to see how your life has changed from doing the inner child healing work, for example, or going to therapy or getting help and working on your wounds. They will be able to witness in you because no one likes being told what to do. But if they can witness power and change and growth in you, that is 1,000 times more powerful than receiving a lecture on all the things that you're doing wrong, right? And people's ego, just like your ego wants to protect you from feeling like a bad person, what do you think is happening in the minds of the people you're trying to change? It's the same thing. Their egos won't allow them to hear your words because it doesn't want to feel like they're doing something wrong, right? And so if someone you know has passed away or gone down a really dark path because of their decisions and there was nothing that you could do about it, you can still impact the lives of other people who were meant to hear it, who were ready to hear their words through something else, through taking initiative in another way. Maybe it's raising money to support the cause that took the life of someone that you cared about. Maybe it's talking to people about, guess what? I found this awesome podcast on healing your inner child, or I learned this in therapy or in coaching today, or I read this awesome book that taught me how to do XYZ, and inspire other people through your actions, through your behavior, through living the best life possible. That is how we inspire real change in others. And if we're really honest, that's probably part of the reason why you started your healing journey in the first place, because you saw somebody, whoever it was, maybe a friend or someone online, who truly embodied the kind of person that you aspire to be. And from seeing them as living proof that it was possible, and not from them telling you what to do, and that you heard it at the right time and you were ready to receive that message, that is what inspired you to take that first step forward. And you can be that person for the people in your life as well. Okay, so just as a recap for today's episode, we're going to move into the call to action. And by the way, if you want me to do an episode talking about what karma really is, clearing karmic debts, whether karma is actually real and coming to terms with it, and by the way, karma is real, but it's not the direct cause and effect that you may think it is, let me know in the comments below. And if there are enough people interested, I will do a full episode talking about karmic cycles and karmic debt. But our call to action, today's recap, is to get really honest with yourself on what your true hidden intentions behind rescuing people really is. Is it really about them, or is it about you wanting to feel like a good person when really the more loving thing would just be to be a supportive person and let them make their mistakes, while also doing the more loving and compassionate thing of healing yourself, leading by example, and trusting that the people who were meant to hear that message will hear that message. And that as much as we love somebody, we can't save everybody, and we can't intervene in other people's spiritual journeys. And it's so hard and so devastating to hear. But if you really reach in, there's a truth that you can feel inherently in your body, knowing that all of us are here on our own journeys, and we can't interfere with the most basic of all spiritual laws, that we all have free will at the end of the day. Number 2 of call to action, here's a couple of episodes that I recommend listening to if this is something that you struggle with. Episode number 36, you are not a rehab center for broken people. You're not a center where people go in and out to get fixed. Okay, that is not your job, because that makes you an enabler, not really a helper. Plus, I recommend checking out episode number 62, How to Heal Anxious Attachment in 6 Months. I did a fantastic interview with someone who recovered from codependency, so go ahead and check that one out. As well as number 89, What to Do If You Feel Guilty and You Feel Sorry for People All the Time. Excellent episodes. Go ahead and check them out. Final call to action number 3, if this is something that you struggle with, and maybe you attract a lot of partners who end up being people with addictions, who need help, that you're constantly trying to rescue, you attract men who are always Peter Pans and you're trying to raise them into men, book a free call with our team of experts, and maybe working with me is exactly what you needed if you struggle with everything that I talked about in this episode. Go to bygloriazhang.com/soulmate. You can learn a little bit more about what I do and how we help high achievers get results in a short amount of time. Book a free breakthrough call with one of my dating specialists that will help you get so much clarity on your situation. And maybe that's exactly what you needed. bygloriazhang.com/soulmate. Okay, my loves, I hope this was a lovely and helpful episode. I'm actually going to be traveling to China to visit my beloved grandparents just after my birthday, I'm leaving May 21st. But I'm going to see if I can publish and record some episodes ahead of time so that we don't have a gap in the schedule. I love you so much. And by the way, if I don't have you on social media, you can find me on Instagram at @bygloriazhang. I created a new Besties Club broadcast group where I, send voice notes and stuff. I would love for you to join me there. You can feel like you're part of the community. And I will see you in the next episode. Mwah! Have a beautiful day and an abundant life. Love you so much.